Some of the big stories of the week with the Inside Utah Politics panel. This week we have State Representative Suzanne Harrison and Salt Lake County Councilwoman Amy Winder-Newton. Ladies, glad to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's start off with the census. Came out this week. Of course, we learned that Utah was the fastest growing state during that decade, but no additional seat in Congress. Amy, let's start with you. What are your thoughts and assessment of what we saw from the census data?
Well, very interesting that we had the highest population growth from a percentage basis. I'm so disappointed to not see another congressional seat. I thought for sure we would get one. Pretty disappointed that we aren't getting them. Interesting to see which states are and which states are losing districts. I think it's interesting to note that a lot of the conservative states are gaining population and some of the more liberal states are losing. I mean, California, for instance, I don't think has ever lost a congressional seat in their history. And so that'll be interesting for the House to see how that plays out.
Representative, your thoughts?
You know, I think the secret is out that Utah is an amazing place to live, and I'm not at all surprised by the growth in our state. And I think with that comes responsibility. As Speaker Brad Wilson mentioned, we have to be very careful about how we approach managing that growth so we do it in a way that protects what we love about Utah and our quality of life.
It's pretty amazing. We've added about 2 million residents since about 1991. I remember the early 90s and how much more accessible things were here in the state. So we've definitely seen a huge boom over the last few decades. As this relates to redistricting, Amy, your thoughts on how that could play out? Do you think we'll see much of a difference from the congressional districts that we have now?
You know, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the redistricting commissions draw things out. I mean, we're doing that even on the county level. We've got our committee that's meeting, and we'll have some answers in the fall. I'll get to see what my new county council district looks like. But I don't know. It'll be fun to kind of see how that plays out. I don't anticipate any major changes that would affect the overall House seats, but it'll be fun to see.
Representative, what are you thinking as we get into the redistricting process?
Well, I think that in 2018, voters made it clear that they want voters to be choosing their elected officials, not elected officials choosing districts that benefit themselves or benefit parties when they voted for the independent redistricting committee through that Better Boundaries initiative. That independent commission is meeting now, and I think it will be really important to listen to the work that they do, and I anticipate that the legislature should, and I hope that they will, take those recommendations very seriously in ultimately determining the final boundaries.
Yeah, we will definitely see how that plays out. Of course, the legislature is not bound by those recommendations, so this could be an interesting story as we move down the road. Let's move on to another big topic here in the state of Utah. That is the coronavirus and the vaccine rollout. Let's talk specifically herd immunity. Are we going to get there? And if so, how? Amy, let's start with you.
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting. We've got about 52% of our adult population vaccinated here in Salt Lake County. And as we look ahead to see how we're going to get that herd immunity and get more people vaccinated, we're going to get to a point where there's more vaccines than there are people who want to have them. And so ensuring that we get our vulnerable communities vaccinated, which we're working really hard on at the county, and I know other counties are as well, but also just sending the message that this is a good thing for our community to be able to be vaccinated. I know Representative Harrison, being in the medical profession, can speak to this even better than I can as far as how important it is to have that herd immunity.
Yeah, you do work on the front lines. We've had you on the show many times to bring that type of perspective. So what are you looking at as we start to see the numbers increase here in the state of Utah?
Well, we're doing a lot right, and kudos to our local public health communities and Salt Lake County and other counties that are really doing a great job of making the vaccine available to those who want it. I think the next step in getting more folks vaccinated is going to be in increasing the convenience and getting some of those vaccines into clinics where people can get the vaccine and have conversations and answer questions with someone that they really trust. A local, trusted health professional will really help increase the numbers of folks getting vaccinated, convenience and answering questions.
We have to look at this honestly, though, and say that we know there are going to be people here in Utah that are going to continue to resist. So with that in mind and the projections that we're looking at now, Are you confident, both of you, that we can reach herd immunity in our state?
I think so. I mean, I think Utahns are smart. We have even, you know, things from religious leaders coming out. The LDS Church just came out and said that missionaries who want to go to countries outside of their home country would need to have the COVID-19 vaccine. And so we're seeing support, I think, from businesses, from religious communities, from our government leaders to get the vaccine. And I think as more and more people do this, others will feel like, you know, this is the right thing to do and recognize that it is safe and it is a good thing.
Representative, are you also optimistic about that?
I am, and I agree with what Councilmember Winder Newton said. And also, this is the best way for us to get back to normal and get back to the things we love, of concerts and movies and all these things that everyone's missed out on for a while.
Okay, let's get into the mask mandate. We know the state repealed its mask mandate in April, and most municipalities chose not to extend theirs. A couple did. Amy, you sit on a council that chose not to do so. Now that we've had a couple of weeks to see that play out, was that the right decision?
Well, actually, our council didn't get to weigh in because of the legislation that was passed. It was the health department director that would have to make a recommendation for a mask mandate, and he did not. And so, you know, as we look to our professionals in the health arena to give those recommendations, I think that you got to look at data. You've got to look at your professionals, and I think, you know, his reasoning on this and being willing to put all of our efforts into the vaccination program made good sense. We're still seeing stable numbers. A lot of businesses are still requiring masks, and so I think we're easing out of this, and I think things are going to continue to go in a positive direction.
Representative, do you see it that same way, that things are still moving in a positive direction even though municipalities took that mask mandate out?
I'm cautiously optimistic, and I think, you know, medical professionals still recommend that you wear masks when indoors in a public setting, and I hope people will listen to those trusted sources and do their part to continue to head in a positive direction. We do have variants of COVID that are present here in Utah, and we're in a bit of a tenuous, cautiously optimistic situation where we need to keep doing our part to look out for our neighbors and wear those masks where appropriate. And please, I really appreciate what Governor Cox said. Please be patient, kind, and respectful of other people around you and of those businesses that you're frequenting. Please honor their wishes.
Yeah, definitely seeing people make their own choices in certain ways as this moves forward. Another very interesting topic I want to get your thoughts on: social media rage. A lot of toxicity on Twitter and other social media platforms. We've seen you know, public figures and others really speaking out, saying this is getting to the point where they just don't even want to deal with it anymore. Is it getting to the point where social media doesn't even have value in specifically having political conversations? Amy.
Well, I think it's rough. I mean, we're in elected office, so we understand what it feels like to get the vitriol thrown at you through social media and other channels, and it's frustrating. It's hard. I think there's a lack of civility overall, though, in our communities that we've got to address. And at the end of the day, being able to fix that starts with each individual person. We have to look at how we're talking to people, whether it's on social media or on comment boards or whatever, and I take a step back and recognize that it's okay for people to have differing opinions, and we don't need to argue every point or call them names. We can talk about policy issues in a respectful way. You know, Representative Harrison and I were talking on the way in about how refreshing it is that a lot of us government leaders here in Utah know how to do that, and we have those kinds of conversations. We need the public at large to be respectful of each other's opinions, look for ways that they can respond in a civil way, and be able to keep that dialogue very positive and helpful.
Yeah, one of the things that's kind of unbelievable is just how people have elevated that because they can hide behind a keyboard now.
Right.
Things they wouldn't say in person. Representative, your thoughts?
I could not agree more. You know, there's so many good things that come from social media too. You can keep in touch with friends and loved ones, and I found it really helpful to create an online sense of community with constituents and really having positive outreach and dialogue, but it is out of control in terms of toxicity. And if you're online to score points or dunk on someone, you need to reconsider what you're doing. And if you're not willing to say it to someone's face, please don't be part of the problem online. I think, you know, if you read something and your first thought is it makes you angry or fearful, consider the source of that information, and instead of sharing it or rage tweeting, like, question the source of that information and make sure that we're all elevating the dialogue. Having respectful conversations about real solutions and policy ideas is great. Trashing on each other is not helping anyone.
Very good point. Hopefully we can move forward in a better way when it comes to our social media interactions. Thanks so much for being with us. Excellent conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Inside Utah Politics right after the break.